Hey everybody, this is Perch. As you all know, I love it when people write in and or in the comments tell me how to run my show. It always makes it's always very enjoyable. I appreciate that kind of backseat driving. It helps. It helps me be better when somebody tells me all of the flaws of the show and how it could be improved. Um, and like, for example, somebody might say, "Hey, Perch, you're very passive aggressive and sarcastic when you make statements." And I will say, "Thanks, I had no idea that I was being that way." And so, it helps. You're helping me be a better man, um, as they say. So let's get into this mail, which is trying to help out the show. Hey, Perch, I want to like your show. If, by the way, if you start anything with like "I want to," you do not. That's horseshit. So just say what you mean. But anyway, I want to like your show, but I happen to notice that all of the guests you have on your show, in fairness, there's not that many of those anymore. All of the guests that you have on your show tend to be SJWs. They tend to be very liberal. A lot of them are gay, and they tend to espouse a liberal point of view. If you truly want to be powerful, I, okay, hang on a second. Um, I desire to be powerful, and that's why I've got a YouTube channel about comic books. Oh, okay. Okay, we're just going to roll with that one. If, if you desire to be powerful, invite invite Shane Davis, EVS, uh, Eric July. Yeah, let me just call up Eric July. Hey, guy who has like whatever, what is it, hundreds of thousands of subs on your channel. Hey, come on my little channel and promote your comic book. Yeah, let's get right on that one. I'm sure you could jump at that opportunity to reach the Perch audience. It'll be beautiful. Anyway, anyway, Eric July, Vox Day. I, all right. Uh, uh, all right. There's a big list of names here. Um, there's Yellow Flash. There's Tug. There's Just Some Guy. Okay, I thought Just Some Guy was on the outs with all these other names, but what the fuck do I know anymore? Anyway, um, sure. There's Dale Keown. I like Dale Keown. I do. I look forward to the interview where I can talk to him and he'll fall asleep in the middle of it. No, I'm kidding. That's a shot. That's not fair because I do like Dale Keown's art quite a bit. I think he's a good guy. Look, I don't even know what to do with this. All right. So anyway, there's a long list of names. Maybe okay. We're getting back to the mail. Maybe you can do better if you actually try and get some guests who are worthwhile and sell comic books. None of the people you talk to actually sell comic books. You're a dick. Actually sell comic books, and none of the people that you've threatened to talk to, like Tom King or Vita Ayala, sells comic books. I hate to break it to you. It is true, Vita doesn't sell high numbers of comics. That is true. And unless Vita is on a book that has kind of a known character, Vita doesn't really sell moderate level of comics either. That's true. But whether you love Tom King or hate Tom King does move decent numbers of comics in today's market. Now, granted, if Tom King was writing comics in the 80s, putting up the numbers he's putting up today in the 80s, then he would not be writing comics. They would have rolled him out. But here's the thing, and you're going to hate what I say right now. There is a strong likelihood that if Tom King was writing comics, let's say you transported Tom King back in time, he's working for Jim Shooter, he's doing comics for Marvel. Given the newsstand and the distribution there's a high probability that Tom King would be putting out 150 to 200,000 copy comics, minus returnability. There's a high probability that would be true. For what it's worth, Dan Slott, Scott Snyder, various Jerry Duggan, a lot of those writers in 80s Marvel, if they weren't insane, they would probably be putting out decent numbers along everybody else. Probably. I say that because Marvel in the 80s, while there are some very creative people there, and I take nothing away from the Mark Gruenwalds and Roger Stearns and others during that era, Chris Claremont, the reality is Marvel was a machine back in the 80s that was there, and so was DC, that was putting out a certain volume of books. And so as long as you fit within a mold and you demonstrated the ability not to be a goddamn lunatic, you would do okay in that process. The greats, of course, would be the people who had comics you really remember, like Grunwald or Wolfman or Frank Miller or people like that who put out things. Alan Moore, who put out stuff that's been remembered through the decades. But there's lots of creators who wrote comics in the 80s that sold 150,000 copies who are not memorable today, who we don't really think of, because the mechanism kind of propped it up. And the people who washed out of that system were people who were, by and large, nuts, who couldn't, participate. And again, whatever you think of the Dan Slotts, Al Ewings, the Tom Kings, etc., they've exhibited the ability to work within a corporate structure to keep their work going. Now, you may not like them, and you may not like what they're doing, but there's a huge difference between say a Danny Lore and a Tom King, in terms of one seems to have more the ability to work the political structure of the publisher than the other, by sheer the nature of the books they're put on. But be that as it may. Anyway, all right. Well, this mail goes on to insult me a bunch and talk about that kind of stuff. I don't know, man. Why don't I interview more of those people? First of all, Yellow Flash's name is on that list. Yellow Flash, does Yellow Flash put out a comic? What would be am I interviewing YouTube commentators now? What is the fucking point of that? They have a YouTube channel. And I'm not saying this is a knock against anyone. Take whatever comic faction you happen to be supporting right now. What is the goddamn point of doing an interview with somebody who is got a YouTube channel where they regularly produce content? If they want to say something to their audience, they have a channel. They have a direct mechanism. What am I gonna do? In some of these cases, I've talked to some of these people, and I had one, I would say, prominent YouTuber, somebody who's got about 10x the subscriber base as me, wanted to come on and be interviewed. And I said, I don't know what I'd interview you about. I mean, I can, but you don't have a comic, you don't have a product. What would you? I'm like, what are we talking about? And the guy's like, I want to challenge you on your ideas. And I'm like, well, I'm too much of a pussy. I don't want to be challenged. No, I did not say that. I said, but okay. I mean, but how? Are we going to have a debate? I'm like, I could set up a debate. It's like, no, I'm not making this up. I want you to let me talk so I can refute what you say. I'm like, you have a channel that's way more popular than mine. Just fucking do that on your channel. So I'm supposed to introduce you, say, like, here's this, did a little edit there. Here's this person, and they're going to say how I'm wrong. And I'm going to sit here like a dope and say, a few times, and then that's what you're listening to. Again, I mean, maybe some of you would be into that, I guess. But selfishly, I'm not into that. There's got to be some give and take. I don't know. I mean, it just all seems stupid to me. And again, so you're going to come on my channel. You're going to give an interview where you want to attack some of what I say. You're going to get 3,000, 5,000 views. Meanwhile, you can go on your channel, do the exact same fucking thing minus me, and get, 30, 40,000 views. I have to believe you're a moron. This makes no goddamn sense. What you're proposing makes no fucking sense. Anyway, I maintain I will interview anyone who wants to come on the channel. Happy to do it. I've said in the past, if Vita ever wanted to come on the channel, I would interview Vita. I would let Vita say, you are wrong on every front, and then I would say, well, I don't think I am. We'd have a debate about that, or we wouldn't. I don't know. I would fuck up the Vita interview because I would absolutely, well, actually, probably not. If I'm talking to Vita, I would not mess up the pronouns because you're talking to the person, so the pronouns wouldn't come up. But I admit, I'm old, I'm stupid, I would fuck it up, no doubt about it. I don't know what people have given me lists of things. I do think that at some point, Zach, Richard, and I never am sure which way to go with that. I think we could do a funny prank on how the shows are constructed. I think it would take it would be cerebral. We could come up with a funny little bit. I think that would be enjoyable for me. I'm sure. Here's the thing. I don't think if people have said, if you ever have him on the show, a bunch of people would never come on your show again. I don't believe it. I'm sorry, I don't. I'm going to say no. Mark Wade showed up and did an interview with a channel that, like, within a week did an interview or something with EVS. So I'm not buying it. I think people will go where they need to go, as long as you're reasonably fair and not a prick about it. Fine. But I'd interview almost anyone. I mean, and I say almost, probably anyone, but it has to make sense. It literally makes sense. And I don't have a ton of time these days. So, doing an interview takes more work. I try to, mildly take it more seriously. So, I do my best to try and, help the person out, whatever they're hawking or whatever they're doing. But I would interview anyone. And here's the conclusion. We'll get out of the sarcasm. I'm curious to get your takes on all this. I mean, I don't know. You're along for the ride at this point. Parakeet. The secret word is parakeet. Isn't it better to hear voices from people that we don't agree with? Isn't that a better thing? The one thing I hate about 2020 discourse and how people talk to each other is this desire to want to shut down, attack people who have different opinions, different views. I think it makes you smarter. It makes you better to hear from other people, to understand what other people are claiming and saying and doing. I think that makes you more powerful. I think it's better when you're able to engage at that level. I think a lot of people are uncomfortable with their ideas being challenged, and so they intentionally try and create, little bubbles around themselves where they can have, thought safe spaces where they can just, more or less never be challenged, always be that perfect, amazing little snowflake that they want to be. And I think that makes for weaker, dumber people. And I think the right and the left, both on a regular basis, engage in that activity. I think they on a regular basis, I will shun any challenge to their ideas. But there is such a thing as I think the expression goes, sharpening the steel. You are better off when your ideas are challenged and when you have to test them, when you have to measure them, when you have to actually, come up with good reasons to defend your point of view. If you live forever in a bubble of everyone who either agrees with you or pretends to agree with you, you're a dumber, weaker person. I don't think it's healthy. I think it's on YouTube. It's like masturbation. It's very people get very excited about the idea of never having their ideas challenged and living surrounded by a bunch of sycophants. I think there are plenty of people who live and appreciate and love that kind of environment, but it's not healthy. You don't grow. You don't become better as a person. In the end, I think you become dumb and weak, and I think that's a lot of what we see today. We see kind of dumb, weak people. I don't know. That's not what I aspire to. That's not what I want. I'm more comfortable in a room full of people who are arguing, people who are challenging each other's ideas, than a room where people are like, blowing smoke up your ass. And maybe that's the reason why. I mean, other than it's a complete bit, and I think anyone who doesn't think it's a bit is, touched inside, let's say. But that's why, people who come into the comments, like a Mumbles, or some of the, I mean, Mumbles isn't a good example, again, because it's a bit. Uh, but absolutely, it's a bit. Don't kid yourselves. But for people who come into the comments and they're like, this show sucks. I mean, first off, be careful how you word that, because YouTube's going to catch you and delete it or hide it or shadow ban it or whatever. I mean, they're gonna get you. But it doesn't make me feel less as a person if you come in and challenge my ideas. So, I, don't be afraid of that. I mean, we'll say it a different way. Don't be a pussy. If you can't take somebody disagreeing with you, you're not going to get very far in life, for what it's worth. This is your dad, Perch, saying, I'll interview whoever the fuck I want. Thanks for listening.